Hello, and welcome to Translation of Light Astrology, where we look at the symbolism of the sky and how it reflects events on Earth. My name's Alberto. This is episode 2, and it's called Sedna Under Arrest. In one legend, Sedna is a giant, the daughter of the creator god Anguta, with a great hunger that causes her to attack her parents. Angered, Anguta takes her out to sea and throws her over the side of his kayak. As she clings to the sides, he chops off her fingers, and she sinks to the underworld, becoming the ruler of the monsters of the deep. It's from Wikipedia. And in this video, this is a dash cam video. Sorry, not a dash cam, body cam video. The father says, "My daughter's in the car. She refuses to get out, and I want to get my car back, please." Police say, "Why isn't she getting out?" The dad says, "I don't know. She's got a lot of problems in life and can't seem to solve them." So, if you enjoy this content, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel to grow. So, ever since Mars went into Cancer, I sort of got very interested again in true crime, watching a lot of videos, and I sort of came upon the genre of body cam videos, which are kind of horrifying and fascinating. And one thing that's really great for an astrologer is that they're all time stamped down to the second. So if you wanted to pull charts for these to analyze them, you can do that really easily. So I saw this video entitled "Daughter Loses It When Finally Told No," with 10 million views on Crime Scene Cam channel. And I started to say, well, I wonder what the chart looks like. So this happened on September 18th, 2022, at 3:20 p.m. in Maitland, Florida. This is the map showing the area where it happened. So here's the chart for this event. Um, when we look at a chart, it's really good to look at what are the angular planets, first of all. These are probably the most influential planets in the event. So we have in the first house Pluto and Capricorn. There's sort of a power struggle happening here. And then also Uranus in Taurus in the fourth house. So this can be like a stubborn, exaggerated rebellion. It's also being amplified by the north node of the moon here. So it's kind of like intense. Also, both of them are retrograde. So according to traditional astrology, we would assign the victim of this event to the first house and its ruler. In this case, this is the father. He's the one that's calling the police. And he is represented by Saturn in Aquarius in rulership in the second house. And if we look at who's the opponent, the seventh house ruler is the moon, which is represents the daughter. And basically, they are not seeing each other here. She's also in rulership, interestingly enough. Okay, so one of the reasons we take the victim to be the first is that this is sort of the querent or the subject of the chart, and the house directly opposed to that is the seventh, indicating opponents. So that's why we would choose that over the aggressor, the person who's causing problems. So next, we can look and see that, again, according to traditional rules, the fifth house is the child of the first house person. So the daughter's house is the fifth house, and it's Sedna's there, which I think is kind of interesting. There's some parallels to that myth and what happens here. We can also see that the police are there too. In Mars in Gemini, there's two police officers, and they are in the space of the daughter, trying to reason with her as well. Also, according to a chart I'll show you in a minute, the Taurus, according to William Lilly, indicates the passenger compartment of a car. So it's like literally Sedna in the car with the police talking to her. So let's look at the symbolism behind the father. Notice also here, it only occurred to me recently, like why are the gods always riding in in carts? Here's Saturn with his scythe and with a bunch of dragons pulling him along. But it's kind of interesting because, you know, cars are such a like constant in our culture, and it makes it really easy to make those comparisons of a god in a chariot versus a person in a car. So this is a diagram I created This is based on William Lilly's work. I tried to make it visual, easy to understand. If you've seen the mesothelia, which is the zodiac man, the diagram of the parts of the body that are assigned to different signs. Aries is the head, is the first sign. Taurus is the throat. Gemini is the arms and hands, going down to Pisces at being the feet. So Lilly did a lot of work with charts. Shipping was a really big deal and very unstable, very unpredictable. People wanted to know, where is that ship? When are they coming back? Is it damaged? So he came up with this schema, which, symbolically makes sense here. You could say like, oh, the rudder is Gemini. It's something that's being turned by the hands. If you see the bow is Aries. This is kind of pushing forward. It wants to be first. The captain is sort of overseeing everything here, and it is an Aquarius. And in our chart, the father is Saturn in Aquarius. He's the captain of the car. He's the driver of the car. So very interesting stuff. If we take this and modernize it and put that kind of those associations to a modern car, we end up with something more like this. So again, I already mentioned Aquarius is the driver. That's the father. Um, the daughter's fifth house is Taurus, passenger compartment. Um, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the father. We mentioned the father is the driver. He's also in the second house of his possessions, and he's asserting his power with the Pluto in the first house. But maybe it's a little bit too late. It's a retrograde Pluto, and he has lost power to the extent that he has to actually call the police to help enforce his power. Saturn is in the Aquarius 2 decan, which is symbolized by the Six of Swords in Tarot, which can mean transition, a rite of passage, or releasing baggage. And in this video, the father says, listen, I'm sorry, officers. This is my fault too. I indulged her too much. I helped create this situation, and he's kind of resigned in a sad way to let his daughter go. She has to be punished at this point. She needs other help that he can't offer her. Pluto's in the Capricorn 3 decan, which is the Four of Pentacles, which you can see the card here in the upper right, indicates saving money, security, conservatism, control. Interestingly, Austin Coppock calls this decan the throne. So this father has kind of lost his throne. He can't sit on his throne in the car anymore, but he's trying to reclaim that. It's Pluto in retrograde. He's gonna get that back. And Austin delineates this as the dynamic in this phase is a struggle for control between an individual and their world, which is exactly what's happening in the video, which I recommend you watch too. Saturn is in Jupiter's bound, so the father's going to act wisely and generously. Is going to be, and if you look at the video, he's not arguing with the daughter or the police. He's not. He's just trying to you know he's just almost a bystander. If we look at the card here, going back to the Six of Swords, there's a kind of resignation here. It's sort of like a feeling of this didn't work out. And he is the driver now that is, his whatever his family larger situation is, he's going from one shore to the other. Whatever was on the previous shore is not working. So the father has some interesting fixed stars. If you look at Al-Qaid or Bennett Nash, it is the sun is on that, and it's in the Ursa Major constellation. And it literally, Bennett Nash means the governor of the daughters, chief mourner, the daughters of the great bier. So the bier is that, like you see on the left here, is like the funeral, the thing that holds the coffin. I thought that's kind of interesting, direct relation. Also, the sun obviously is another. There can be more than one sign for a person in a chart. The sun can also be the father, but I think also in this chart, because it's in the ninth house, it's more about the law. It's about justice being upheld, and there's a sense. there's no joy in this video. This is a video of sort of sadness for things that have gone quite wrong. Or you could even extend that and say maybe the previous lifestyle of this family is being put to rest at this point. It's not going to work. He has Deneb Algeti Vesta is on there in Capricorn. Can indicate extremes of luck and destruction, impervious to poison or venom, sobriety. It's linked to the symbolism of the law-giving, justice-oriented ancient god who's trying to civilize his people. So I thought there's a couple of things that are interesting there, like the whole point of sobriety. The daughter was in a you learn from the video she was in a rehab clinic and then got kicked out of the rehab clinic. The father emotionally is quite sober here, while the daughter comes off as being emotionally quite drunk. And, you know, law giving, justice oriented. I mentioned already about, you know, being in Saturn being in a Jupiter bound. So it's sort of justice oriented. The father has also some asteroids here, of course. Um, Interestingly, there's the four first asteroids, the asteroid goddesses, as Demetra George calls them, um, are Vesta, Ceres, Vesta, Juno, and Pallas. And the father, his Saturn significator planet, is with Vesta, and the daughter's moon is with Pallas. So Vesta can be about commitment to work, being emotionally unavailable. Maybe that's an issue. When we get to the daughter, you'll see Pallas Athena is the warrior goddess. So she's ready to fight. She's sort of that aspect of the feminine. Um, uh, there's also asteroid Adrastea 239, which is with his Pluto. And so this is consequences, accountability, and the lessons of karma. And when you watch the video, you'll see this is definitely feels like a turning point moment, that this is something that it can't continue in this way. There's finally going to be accountability. It's not just going to be a family argument, it's going to be jail. And finally, with Saturn, there's also opportunity. It's asteroid, which literally can just be new possibilities. Maybe there's a new chance for the daughter, for the father, because it's not just the daughter that's having trouble here, it's also the father. Because again, the father seems to have lost his power over his own car. He can't even control his car, let alone, God only knows what else is going on. So let's talk a little bit about the daughter. So again, I've made this image here on the left. This is interesting. This is the combination of the soft and gentle maternal sort of infant moon with the fierce, Pallas Athena, righteous goddess. So if we take the fifth house from the second, if the second is the father, the fifth house from the second is the sixth house, which is the child of the father, which is where the moon is, the daughter. The moon is at 5 degrees Cancer. So she has sort of a defensive shell. She's very emotional. As I mentioned, the moon is like the earliest sign of the ages of man. It's more basically an infant level instinctual response to something as opposed to more mature thing. The moon is at an apex of a T square with Mercury and Jupiter. So she's sort of torn between thinking diplomatically, Mercury in Libra, and excessive independence, Jupiter in Aries. She basically goes for the excessive independence. The moon is also interestingly out of bounds. She's out of bounds. She's out of line, right? She's disorderly. Um, and this is happening in the fifth house of Taurus. It's the most stubborn, slow-moving sign. The Lord of Taurus is Venus, which is in fall in Virgo in the eighth, which is the idle place and the place of debts. And in the video, the thing that had preceded this incident was the father took her to buy her gift cards because she doesn't have a job. So there's literally the father's the debt there. Um, and it's the ninth from the 12th. Or if we take the 12th house to be rehab, she got kicked out. She's distant from the rehab now. She's far away. And her moon, instead of being in Jupiter's bound, is in Mars's bound. So she's going to act aggressively with emotion. So we talked about the goddess Sedna. Here's Sedna in a car. we already sort of shared this, but basically want to emphasize the great hunger. What's the great hunger? Probably this substance addiction she has to attack her parents. She's attacking her father at least. She tells the police that she thinks that her father has early onset dementia, which is really kind of sad because the father just literally is driving her around and gave her money. Um, so the father in the Sedna myth gets angry and throws this daughter over the side of his kayak. And so I was kind of thinking, kayak, car, this is just spooky. It seems kind of interesting, like the parallel there. That again, I don't know the full backstory about the father or the daughter. I don't know the full story about Sedna, but that there's like a resonance there about sort of some kind of parental relationship that's failing. Um, so on Sedna, there's also the fixed star Alcyone, which is part of the Pleiades. It's on the shoulder of Taurus the bull. It's the brightest star. It indicates coping with sorrow, family separations, restrictions, banishment. They're said to make their natives wanton, ambitious, turbulent, optimistic, peaceful, to give many journeys and voyages, success in agriculture and through active intelligence, and to cause blindness, disgrace, and a violent death. So there's a lot there. This is a very complicated symbol, but I think starting with the sorrow, family, separations, restrictions, and banishment, it seems like that is pretty much what's happening to Sedna here. Okay, the daughter's asteroids. So interestingly, the asteroid Odysseus is stationing direct on Sedna at this point. And what do we know about Odysseus? He's somebody that, wandered after the Trojan War. And he was very versatile. He was sneaky, an exile. He's like the archetype of the exile, unavoidable, extended journey, rootless, estranged, forced to go far away from home. That seems to be what's sort of happening with the daughter. Antigone, near the moon, family dynamics, loyalty, the struggle for independence. So interestingly, on the map, um, all of this event is happening on a road that's called Independence Lane. And at first I thought, oh, that's the daughter fighting for her independence, but it's also the father. The father is dependent. There's sort of a weird codependent relationship, unhealthy kind of merging going on. And this is, in a way, it's an Independence Day for both of them. Niobe is near Uranus. Excessive hubris that leads to a humbling fall from grace. And if you watch this, the daughter goes from being obnoxious and insulting and to being in handcuffs in the back of a police car. Finally, Nemesis is with Neptune. Retribution for evil deeds and undeserved good fortune and hubris again. The personal shadow or blind spot that keeps tripping one up, where one puts the blame rather than accepting their own issues. So as I mentioned, here's the one of the first things the daughter says in the video is, I think my father has dementia. And she's not, it's totally projecting. It's totally out. I did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. Let me blame that other person. And as you know, you can't solve a problem unless you acknowledge it. So this is showing on the left here, Odysseus having washed up on the beach, naked in exile. So there's a note of hope in the chart too, I think. Eris is on the IC in Aries, discord, chaos, rebellion, no holds barred fight for continued existence, making a stand for what one believes in, even if violence is involved. So that's kind of where we're starting at. That's the root of this whole thing. But on the MC, there's Haumea, and in Libra, which can indicate transformation, rebirth, power of life to triumph over adversity, um, innate moral compass. So this image on the left shows Eris sort of laying down her arms and contemplating a beautiful Hawaiian waterfall. And, maybe hopefully that's the path where this situation will develop to. Um, just a couple of other things to note. There's a whole bunch of aspect stuff going on here. If you look at the sun has this opposition to Neptune, there's this sort of sense of cloudiness and confusion. The daughter perhaps may even be intoxicated. If the sun is sort of the law, there's this kind of standoff between those two. Interestingly, there's also this opposition between the next planet over, Mercury, opposed to Jupiter. I already mentioned that before. It's sort of a combination of or an opposition between civility, civil discourse, and expansive aggression. Um, you can see that if we take the Mars to be the police, it's in trine with the father. So they're participating, they're working together. And this is a little bit more advanced, but there's a thing called mutual reception happening here, where Venus is in Virgo, which is Mercury's sign, and Mercury is in Libra, which is Venus' sign. And what that's almost like a role switching thing. And I think it's symbolically in the video, the police will say something like, you're under arrest. And then the daughter will say, no, I'm not. And they'll say, this is trespassing. And she'll say, no, it's not. It's sort of a Jedi mind trick. And it's amazing the nuances you can get from these charts. But there's a sense of her trying to play that role. And also, the police or the law playing a very diplomatic role, Mercury in Libra. So here are some of the works cited. Can't recommend enough. Deborah Holding's annotated version of William Lilly's Christian Astrology. This is where I'm basing the ship and the car sign significations, but there's a whole world in there. Highly recommend. Again, Austin Coppock made it into episode 2 again, 36 Faces, which is a definitive work on what we call the decans, which are there's 30. You can slice up the zodiac into 36 slices, and each of them have very old mythology and symbolism associated with them. Elizabeth Hazel has this fun book, The Little Book of Fixed Stars, which is written kind of in a very easy to understand way with interesting groupings of stars. And of course, Asteroid Goddesses by Demetra George. Thank you to Demetra. She inspired me to get into asteroids in the first place. And it's just been like an incredibly fun journey learning about them and seeing how they actually operate in the world. So if you or somebody you know is suffering from mental health or substance abuse issues, I just wanted to put up these numbers and websites here because this is serious issue. One of the things I noticed watching a lot of body cam videos is that, pretty much all of them are, moderate to severe mental illness issues. They're not like somebody who's mentally healthy, making a choice to say, I'm going to steal that candy bar. It doesn't happen that way. The police often do a really good job of handling these very, very complicated situations. So I have great sympathy for the father here and for the daughter. I think their example makes an interesting example to learn some more about astrology. So translation of light astrology is my practice at translationoflight.org. So please check that out. You can book a reading there. I do readings like this regarding natal, fixed stars, asteroids. And I have a huge archive of astrological images at x.com/museumaastro if you're interested in learning more. So that's the end of Sedna Under Arrest episode. My name is Alberto. Thank you for tuning in and hope to see you next time.